Alrighty, joining us now, he is the senior NBA draft analyst for Basketball News, Matt Babcock. Matt, long time no talk. How's it going, man?
Hey Nick, hey, first of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, it's going well. We got a busy week here. Got the draft coming up, and actually heading out to New York tomorrow morning. And so looking forward to getting out there.
Yeah, obviously a super hectic week for you. As we get ready to head to New York for the draft, what's that look like, man? I'm sure your schedule with interviews and just travel to get to New York, man, how's this week going for you?
Yeah, no, I've been doing a lot of interviews, a lot of local radio spots, things like that. Everybody wants to know, who to expect their team to take, and I'm doing my best to figure it out. But there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes right now. And once I get to New York, we're going to be doing a lot of different media. I'm gonna have a camera crew following me around and talk with some of the players, and yeah, it should be an exciting week.
That's awesome. So obviously, you've been doing this for a while, as well as, Kobe Altman and some of these Cavs general managers and executives. What does this week look like behind the scenes for executives as they get ready to make their selections?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on which team it is. Obviously, if you've got a team with extremely high pick, there's a lot on the line. Or you have teams that have multiple picks, there's a lot to juggle and a lot to look at as well. And then you had other teams that don't have picks or don't have any high picks, which it's obviously just naturally a little bit more casual. But yeah, most teams that are in sort of relevant spots within the draft, they're grinding it out, looking at all the options. I mean, there's a lot of trade chatter going on right now, which I mean, would seem as if there'll be some good amount of trades going through, but there's definitely talk. So all teams are looking at the options there, and then trying to figure out which players will be there to select at different spots.
Each year going into the draft, the hours before the leaks start to come out, do you think that's going to be the case this year where, potentially hours before the draft, some of the picks are announced on Twitter before we get them, announced on stage by the commissioner?
Yeah, I think it was a year or two ago. They tried to say, Woj and Shams couldn't do it, and it didn't stop. I mean, it was pretty funny to see those guys were rebelling and still releasing the picks. I'm assuming. I think we're past the days of waiting for Adam Silver to let us know who the pick's going to be, but it's exciting nonetheless.
So you've been traveling all over the place, talking to a lot of these NBA prospects, some college players, some coaches. What has that been like for you, man? I just from following you on social media, I could tell it's been a lot of travel. And from what I've gathered, you've been able to gather a lot of insight on these players and their situations as they head towards the NBA draft, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, for me at least, it's a huge part of the evaluation process that, I need to make sure that I'm getting to be around these players and just sort of digesting what they're all about, their personalities, their body movements, things. And I start early. For example, I just drove back. I live in Denver, Colorado, but I drove down to Colorado Springs yesterday for USA Basketball's U17 national team training camp. So, we're a few days from the 2022 NBA draft, but I'm working on the 2025 NBA draft already. So, just to give an example of at least for me, it's a huge priority of getting out there. And we always say, getting in the trenches and watch these people with our own eyes and getting to know some of them personally as well.
Definitely, for sure. So let's turn right there. Obviously, you've been following this for quite some time. The Cavs have the 14th pick. They had a very surprising season, kind of caught some people here locally off guard making that play-in tournament. There was a time before the All-Star break where they were as high as the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. In your mind, Matt, what is the biggest position of need for the Cavs in this upcoming draft?
Well, I mean, I think one sort of looming question is what goes on with Colin Sexton. Do they bring him back? Do they do a sign and trade? I think regardless, they could add some depth to their backcourt. And so I mean, Malaki Branham is a name that keeps coming up. Obviously, a local kid. I'm sure the fan base there would be excited to keep him in state. But I do think he is a realistic option. Ousmane Dieng is another guy whose name has been attached to Cleveland. Not a traditional backcourt player. I mean, he's 6'10", but he's sort of a 6'10", do-it-all, more of an upside guy rather than plug and play. But definitely, I think they're looking for some secondary ball handlers, guys that be on the perimeter. Because I mean, the lineups they played last year were huge. I mean, they played Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and Markkanen together a lot of the time, and that's 3 near 7-footers. So I think getting some guys that could do some stuff on the perimeter makes sense for them.
What is your instincts today about the Colin Sexton situation? It seems like we've had, both sides of the reports, one side that he wants upwards 20 million and, that the Cavs are probably not going to be willing to match those offers. And then on the other side, we know that the Cavs really like Colin Sexton. They would like to keep him around. What's your perspective on his entire situation? Because it is kind of a unique one, especially with the emergence of Darius Garland last year.
Yeah, no, I remember talking on various interviews last year around last year's draft about Colin and the the rumors were flying that his time in Cleveland might be numbered, and so I mean this isn't anything new, right? I mean with that pending free agency around the corner with him, and I mean I have a hard time believing they just let him walk free and clear. I mean he's a young, I mean regardless of how much you like him or not, he's a talented, proven player that's young, and so I think just from a business standpoint. They're going to need at least to get something back from him, if not to completely give him the extension that he wants. I wouldn't be surprised either way, honestly, but I would be surprised if they just let him walk free and clear.
Yeah, same here. I'm a big Colin Sexton fan, so I hope they can find a way to keep him. But I'm with you. I don't see that there's a way that they just let him walk for nothing in return. Let's stay here in Ohio. Obviously, the Buckeyes have two prospects. You talked about Branham, who is the local project here from St. Vincent St. Mary. Obviously, big shoes to fill, from that alma mater, as well as E.J. Liddell. Where do you think that those two players can fall, in this year's draft? Because it's been rare that we've seen Buckeyes locally have some success at the next level.
Not sure. I mean, I'm a big fan of both kids. I mean, both seem like really great guys. I actually gotten to know Malachi personally, and what a tremendous character, high character kid. I'm certainly rooting for him. And I haven't met EJ, but I watched Ohio State play this year, and I was fortunate to have really good seats on the floor. So I felt like I kind of absorbed what he was all about, and just such a winner. I mean, I think he's the kind of guy you can plug him in anywhere. Regarding their draft range or draft value, I think Malachi's slightly higher than EJ. I'm expecting him probably to go late lottery, mid first. I don't see him slipping past like the late teens. With EJ, I think his range sort of starts where Malachi's ends. I think the highest he could go would probably be late teens. But I'd be surprised if EJ got to the second round. I think he probably goes in the 20s somewhere. And as far as with teams go, he's the kind of guy, he fits everywhere, because I think how his game translates, he's going to be a face-up four that's switchable, that just kind of does a lot of like the intangibles, winning type plays. The Buckeyes used him a lot as a primary scorer, where they ran the offense through him, mid post, high post, things like that. I don't think he's going to do a whole lot of that anymore. I think it's going to be a lot more of like face-up. He's going to be more of a complementary player offensively, like let the game come to him. But an effective player that I think is ready to go.
And how about Malachi? Because that's a guy that Ohio State fans definitely didn't see as much of, just being a younger guy. And he's even spoken to the fact that not many people expected him to be one and done at Ohio State, and that happened to be the case. What type of pro do you see him becoming?
Oh, I think he's going to be a great pro. It's funny. I evaluated their team early on in the season in November at the Fort Myers Classic. It was actually a great game. They played Seton Hall. I don't know if you remember that game. Went down to the very end, and Malachi had started, but at that point in the season, wasn't doing a whole lot. Didn't get many shots. I think he might have scored like 4 points in that game or something like that. And it was one of these things where I was like, hey, he's an intriguing guy. Like I'll watch him next year. But I was really just focused on EJ. And so with Malachi, he came around mid-season and just really turned it on. And I think what makes him so valuable is, okay, he's young, he's really efficient as a scorer. He doesn't really force things too much. He lets the game come to him. And for me, I would love to see him in Charlotte with LaMelo, because I think he'd be perfect in regards to letting LaMelo be ball dominant, let him create a whole lot, and Malachi kind of pick and choose his spots where he's still somewhat of a, high volume, efficient scorer, but doesn't need the ball in his hands, all that much.
Definitely. Are there going to be some trades, man? Everybody's fired up here for this offseason. Are there going to be some trades that get people talking on Thursday? We're in that weird spot now. The finals are over. It's a long time till football. People are waiting, Matt. People want some NBA offseason moves.
Yeah, I mean, it sure seems like we're going to get a lot of trades. I mean, there's a lot of chatter. Pretty much everybody I'm talking to is saying every pick, almost every pick is up for grabs. Everybody wants to move up. Some people want to move down. Yeah, I mean, it's sure seems like it. So we'll see.
Is there a chance that the Cavs could move from 14 and you know, maybe swap that for more of a proven player if they want to capitalize on, you know, what could be a playoff window here in the East?
Yeah, I mean, actually, with Cleveland, I have not heard them being a strong candidate to move the pick, but you know, I think Kobe, you know, wouldn't be doing his job properly. He wasn't, you know, keeping an open mind and seeing what's out there. I think it's always a possibility.
Cool. If you had to throw a dart right now, you know, maybe it's position, maybe it's player. What does your gut say that the Cavs do at 14 on Thursday?
Yeah, if I were to bet on it, I'd say Ousmane Dieng with
Okay.
Malaki Branham behind him. Those are the two names that I've got kind of penciled in for that pick, but we'll see.
Awesome. And then last question before we get you out of here, man. We appreciate the time. You look at the Orlando Magic, there's so much buzz always about the number one overall pick. betJACK Sportsbook here in Ohio has Jabari Smith as being the favorite to be the number one pick. Is that something that's happening, or could you see a surprise at number one?
It sounds like they're considering Chet Holmgren, but if I were to bet on it, I'm betting on Jabari Smith. I mean, most of the league is operating under the impression that Jabari will be the number one guy. But you know what? They're in the driver's seat. They can do whatever they want to do, right? And so, you know, same story. I mean, I'm a quote unquote NBA draft analyst or expert, right? But it's I'm in wait and see mode too.
Yeah, that's the fun time this time of year. You know, we're just getting closer and closer by the day. All right, actually, last question before we get you out of here. After the draft goes by, man, we got to get you on some sort of vacation. What's the chill plan? Because you've been covering this college basketball season, then you turned heel and went full into NBA draft. Please tell me you got a couple of vacation days planned here after the NBA draft, man.
Yeah, I do actually. So quickly after so I get home from New York. That Saturday, and my family and I were going to this ranch, going fly fishing and horseback riding and the whole deal. And then I'll be out at NBA Summer League for 4 nights, starting July 7th. And then after that, it's that's you know, that's pretty much vacation mode for everybody in basketball. It's July and August and even September.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us, man. I can't wait to catch up on all your draft coverage leading up to it. Tell everybody where they could find your stuff, and we'll get you out of here.
Yeah, no, thanks again for having me. And you can find our stuff on basketballnews.com. And then you can follow me directly on Twitter at Matt Babcock 11.
He's the best. Go give him a follow on Twitter. Matt, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Take care.